update for the first day of August. I can't believe it. I didn't come to you live last week. I'm sorry. I was traveling the country with my children. Had to go to Seattle from some doctor's appointments, then San Diego, Sacramento, Napa, and I was sick the whole time. It was terrible. But I'm back. The Hawkins family is in upstate New York. We were just in Rochester today visiting Seneca Falls today and learning our women's history. But there's a lot of news we got to talk about when it comes to abortion. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. The first article I want to talk about is this news that hit over the weekend. So, New Mexico, I think Alliance for Life came out after doing some research, finding the fact that public records reveal that the New Mexico pro-abortion governor, she is in running. She's in an open competition with Gavin Newsom for the America's most pro-abortion governor. By the way, Governor Lujan Grisham. They are using a taxpayer-funded abortion hotline, and they're referring women to the Satanic Temple Health Abortion Clinic, which was, I think, was named after, it was like Samuel Alito's mom abortion clinic, because this is how crazy the Satanists are. This is a taxpayer funded entity referring girls to not only having abortions to kill their babies, but referring them to Satanists who say that they should be allowed to practice abortion because they're Satanists and it's part of their ritual to kill human lives. True story. That's actually happening in New Mexico today. Crazy. I'm going to show you a video of Planned Parenthood's latest president, Alex Miguel Johnson, on, I think it was The Daily Show. And we're going to watch it together. I haven't watched it fully. I'm almost afraid. So just.
What I want to get clear here today is what are the actual services of Planned Parenthood?
Well, thank you, Leslie, for asking me that question. And thank you for sharing how important Planned Parenthood has been for you, because that has been the story for so many people in their lives. Planned Parenthood really represents reproductive freedom. We sell freedom and agency. It means that when you walk into a Planned Parenthood health center,
they sell freedom and agency. And how do you sell freedom and agency, ma'am? What is that? She's referring to the word in the procedure called abortion. Just let's see if she says any further.
Birth control, STI testing, cervical cancer screenings.
Okay, note here. You know how they say STI testing? This was like a new thing a few years ago. They stopped saying STD testing. Do you ever wonder why? What happened to STDs? STDs didn't go away. In fact, we're in an STD epidemic per the CDC. They call them STIs because infections sound better than diseases. This was literally from their own messaging memo. So instead of saying STD, sexually transmitted disease, this is why they say sexually transmitted infection. Interesting fun fact. According to Planned Parenthood's annual report, they only treat 18% of the STDs they actually diagnose. But we'll keep going.
Breast cancer screenings, gender-affirming care, and yes, we proudly provide
gender-affirming care. Do you know what that means? That means wrong-sex hormones that can make people sterile, children sterile. Children can go into Planned Parenthood in many states and get wrong-sex hormones that can make them infertile for the rest of their lives. Sterilize them without their parents even knowing. Oh, and here comes the kicker. I can just feel it coming.
Because that is also part of healthcare. That is the work that we do. That's what we do.
No. Abortion is not healthcare. If your healthcare means you have to kill human beings, you obviously are doing wrong and suck at healthcare and need to get a new damn job. All right, let's keep going here. What's the next article? Okay, Kamala Harris raises alarm about abortion restrictions, but has faith in the people of America. Interesting. This was an ABC News interview. I saw it. She called out leaders of several states who've been, she said, diminishing reproductive rights of women. But she has hope that the American people will push back. And she talked about in Iowa where the 6-week abortion heartbeat prevention law went into effect, where the governor signed it, but now it's being blocked by one judge. That's her faith in the American people. It's not faith in the American people, because if it's faith in the American people, why would Iowa's heartbeat law be able to go into effect? It's faith in the American judicial system that politically appointed judges can block whole laws, as what happened in Indiana today. But I'm going to get to that because that's coming up. Let's see here. Politico. So GOP splits further over Tuberville's military blockade that stretches through summer. So here's what's happening in Washington D.C. in case you haven't been noticing. And yes, I think I just cracked my neck. So the military. Now, if anyone ever tries to tell you that abortion isn't a federal issue, you don't have to look very much further than Joe Biden's presidential administration to prove them wrong, because Joe Biden's FDA has now made FDA, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid's abortion facilities. His DOJ has told abortionists across the country that they can mail abortion drugs from, pro, free to kill states to free to be born states. So pro-abortion states to pro-life states, even though that violates the Comstock Act, which Congress passed in like 1890 or whatever. The DOJ says that they're not going to prosecute it. And then we also know abortion is federal because the Department of Defense has been using taxpayer dollars and has been paying for military members and their families to go across state lines. So, like, if you're in the military and you get stationed in Georgia and you want to kill your baby who's 24 weeks, they will pay for you to go to Illinois or California or New York. And they don't just pay it out of their own pockets, they pay it out of our pockets. So Tommy Tuberville, senator from Alabama, new senator, said this is wrong. The military should be about protecting life, protecting American life, not killing more American lives. And we shouldn't be using, because of the Hyde Amendment, we can't be using taxpayer funds to pay for abortions. So he has been holding up military promotions. So this affects people's pocketbooks, because if you're going to work in the government, your promotion directly determines your pay level. And so he said, look, military, stop doing this stuff. They have refused. So for 6 months, there's been this stalemate because the military, the DOD, is putting funding travel for abortions over the promotion of its own service members. And Tuberville's like, you all are doing this. This is crazy. And now the GOP, which, sometimes people in the Republican Party are wusses, is starting to cave because the GOP is historically pro-military. And obviously we want people who serve our military to get their promotions. They've done this courageously and they've dedicated their life to protecting us. Obviously we want them to have that. But the problem is the people running the Department of Defense, our military commander-in-chief, are pro-abortion extremists and radicals. So the GOP needs to stick together on this one, because Senator Tuberville is absolutely right. And he's proving the fact that the DOD is paying for travel for abortions over their own service members. That's called radical ideology. All right, next one. Let's see what this one says. Okay, there's a lawsuit in Ohio asking the Ohio Supreme Court to block the abortion measure from the ballot in November. This was filed on Friday. Challenges the abortion rights petition did not identify which state laws it would be repealed if the constitutional amendment were adopted. So this is what's happening in Ohio. And if you know anybody in Ohio, I really encourage you to talk to them, send them my way. I'll be happy to give them more information. So in Ohio, the ACLU, Planned Parenthood, and other well-funded leftist organizations has decided they want abortion in Ohio. They want abortion nationwide, guys, because since the fall of Roe, the abortion lobby knows you can't have half states in America saying you're free to be born and the other half the states in America saying you're free to kill, because ultimately one of the two is going to win. It's not going to be a stalemate forever. So the abortion lobby has to advance abortion in all states. Ohio has banned abortions after the heartbeat of a child can be detected. So the ACLU and Planned Parenthood got together and wrote a constitutional amendment because Ohio says that a simple majority of voters can change the Constitution, which is really bad, because what's happening is outside big interest groups that have lots of money are able to come into the state, confuse voters, and do whatever the heck they want to the Constitution. So next Tuesday, there's issue 1 that's on the ballot. It's a special election happening in Ohio. It's August 8th. We need pro-lifers, people of faith across America to vote yes. Voting yes on issue 1 next Tuesday says that if you want to change the Constitution of Ohio, you should at least get 60% of the vote, which kind of helps starve off some of these crazy outside the state, big, well-funded public, interest groups from coming into state and dramatically changing Ohio state constitution. But after that vote, regardless of how the outcome of that vote is, the abortion proponents led by the ACU have qualified to be on the ballot in November with a proposal to change the Constitution of Ohio. The problem is it's like super vague. It doesn't tell you what laws it's going to amend, but basically it would end a lot of parental rights when it comes to medical decisions in Ohio. So if your child wants wrong sex hormones, life endangering surgery to transition from a boy to a girl, they won't have to have your permission. Same thing goes when it comes to abortion. This is bad news. And it's the ACLU, who's well funded, who has hundreds of millions of dollars going to the state of Ohio. So this is another attempt to say, look, you can't just come into our state and come up with this like crappy ballot initiative and change all of our laws. But that's exactly what the abortion lobby is doing. And they're not stopping in Ohio. As you know, they did this in Kansas. They did this in Michigan, which, by the way, after they passed this in Michigan, polls are coming out in Michigan and people going, wait a minute, we didn't vote for that. And we're like, yeah, you did. Because people were duped in Michigan. They didn't realize what they were voting for. Of course, I know the people in Michigan aren't abortion extremists like Alex McGill Johnson of Planned Parenthood, but these amendments are very deceptively worded. And when people think what the people think versus what they're actually voting for, a lot of times can be two different things. That's what's happening in Ohio, and they're not going to stop there. It's important to stop them in Ohio because there's like over 9 states already. The abortion lobby is lining up to do this. They realize they can't win when it comes to actually getting state legislators elected and going to the state house to pass laws, which is what they're supposed to do. They can't do that because those people are close. State legislators are close to the people. But what they know they can do is they can inundate a state with hundreds of millions of dollars in TV advertising with deceptively worded ballot referendums and try to change their constitutions that way. Let's see. Next article. This was good news, and then it was bad news today. So last year, Students for Life Action, the pro-life movement, got together immediately after the fall vote to make sure abortions were going to be a thing of the past in Indiana. We had a huge success. We weren't totally happy with the bill. There were a couple like weird exceptions that we thought were going to be major loopholes that we were going to fix. But it was a pretty darn good life at conception, no abortion act. It's supposed to go into effect today. Like right as it was going into effect, pro-aborts filed another lawsuit, and now a judge is holding up an injunction, so this law still isn't in effect. So coming soon to Indiana, maybe, depending on one single judge. Remember that thing I just talked about? All right, New York Post. This happened last week. You probably saw it. U.S. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who tries to say she's like a moderate Republican and get all the morning shows in Washington, D.C., says she's pro-life, but then like talks like she's not. And she's actually mad at Tommy Tuberville and the Defense Authorization Act because she thinks we should still be funding the military and just ignore the fact that, and just keep voting business as usual, ignoring the fact that they're paying for abortions with taxpayer funds in blatant against our current laws like time limit prohibit. Wait, Nancy Mace, she went to this prayer breakfast in South Carolina and made this really weird sex joke about how her boyfriend wanted sex the morning of the prayer breakfast, which, core tenet of Christianity is kind of waiting until you're married. So like if you're living with your boyfriend, having sex with your fiance, probably shouldn't bring it up in a Christian prayer breakfast, just saying, and then to make a joke about it. It was crazy. But honestly, the first thing I thought when I saw it was like, no wonder why this is the Republican congressman who's been saying she wants over-the-counter birth control and supports abortion. No wonder why, because she's living this crazy, not Christian lifestyle. All right, last article I'll bring up. I actually haven't read this. I saw the headline. I regret having a baby. I'd rather watch Netflix. A new birth mom birthed a hard truth, and she regrets ever having a kid. This is sad. This is more of what we've been seeing across the country from Gen Z and millennials across the country of this whole like, let's just stop having babies movement, where we've seen that, Gen Z and millennials are saying they may never have kids. They don't want to have kids. If they do have kids, it'll be like one kid. It'll be at 40 because they're just hoping their fertility is always there and available. It's called like selfishness. And it's not good because these ideas will basically end humanity as we know it. So this New York Post op-ed article is kind of more more of the same. A woman that it's easier not to be a parent because being a parent is hard. You worry about something, happening to your child. That's like called being a parent. The quote is, "I just want to go back to my old life. I had a quiet, peaceful, unexciting life, and that's what I like." I think it's really sad to hear this, because yeah, being a parent is hard, but it's also the greatest joy you'll ever know. But it's like this, like, I don't want to do things that are hard, and I just want to go back to a life that I'm by myself, which I would say you probably come to regret it when you're older and you can't have kids anymore and you're, shipped off to an old folks home and there's no one to visit you. Yeah, I think that's something you'll probably regret. I sadly think we're going to see a whole generation of people, too little, too late, regret not having children, not having a family, watching Netflix over having children and making sure our humankind continues to thrive. So more of the same terrible news coming from Gen Z and Gen Y. I'm embarrassed to be a Gen Yer. But all right, that's the Pro Life News for today. Maybe I'll come back at the end of the week. I'll be in another part of upstate New York. Hope this was helpful. Bye.